Hi, this is Eugenia Mitchell, host of At Home with the Mitchells. Thanks for listening to the following podcast on Public House Media.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Your Life Matters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mariah White, and I am a passionate pediatric nurse practitioner and fired up health and happiness coach, here to deliver a message to you. This podcast is meant to provide a hope and a dream that fuels your soul to dream big and to dream bold and to inspire and empower you to live out your wildest freaking dreams and to grab a hold onto the unwavering truth that you were made for more. What's up, guys? Happy Tuesday. And I am so excited for the next 3 weeks of this incredible podcast. So what you guys probably noticed is that there's a part 1. Next week, it'll be part 2. And the following week will be part 3 of an incredible video where 6 incredible humans, me included, were able to just share and shed some light on this very difficult topic that we are all facing in our life. A lot of our family and friends are trying to navigate this whole situation with the Black Lives Matter movement appropriately, but the biggest thing that I wanted to shed light on is how to learn and unlearn, how to do better, be better, and act, how to speak out. But you first have to understand. You first have to take yourself out of the situation and be in a place where you understand the effects of what's going on in the world around you, even if it doesn't directly affect you. So I am so proud and so humbled with the permission of these amazing ladies. I just want you to hear our heart. I want you to understand that this is a YouTube video that I uploaded to my page, so you can find it at Dr. Mariah White on YouTube. You can hear all about it at Dr. Fit White on Instagram and click the link in my bio and watch along as you're listening. But really, truly, my hope is that you share these 3 episodes with somebody who needs it, someone who's struggling, someone who's trying to learn. We have amazing speakers. One of them being Tori Davis. She is a social worker and child therapist. She's going to help parents and moms and people understand how to really talk with their children. We have an amazing woman, Lee Aziz, who's going to come at it from a teaching perspective. She's a high school special education teacher and just has so much knowledge. She's going to share that it's not just a U.S. issue, it's a worldwide issue. We have Virginia Scroggins and Alex Watson. I had to remember her new married name. She's been married for a while. She's going to hate me. But I just wanted you guys to hear it from that perspective because they both went to HBCUs, one being an African-American woman, one being a white Canadian married to a Black man. And then you're going to be able to hear it from the perspective of Daniela, who is a Canadian, who is Black, versus Virginia, who is white, and really understand all the different components. You'll be able to hear from me as a Black woman raising biracial children, like all of these things. And I want you to listen with the intent to learn and unlearn, grow and be better, and then take the information and take it and use it for something, use it for good. Because right now, more than ever, people need to know that we care, that we listen, that we're learning, that we're here, and that we are a place for inclusion. So if you are in a place right now where you just need a little bit of help, or you need someone to reach out to, or you are struggling beyond belief, please reach out to me. Again, you can go to borntoshinewellness.com. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Fit White. You can email me, however it is that you need to get in touch with me, please do. But I really want to say to these beautiful women, thank you so much for sharing some really hard stories. I'm letting you guys know ahead of time, grab a box of tissues, because some of these stories even made me cry. Some of these stories are gut-wrenching and heart-wrenching, but I'm asking you for your soul set, your heart set, and your mindset to be in the right place and to receive this and make sure you send this out to a friend. So I am so excited for part 1, and I hope that you guys listen with open arms and an open mind and really be ready to go down this journey and this path with us. Well, welcome. Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. I am just on behalf of all of the speakers, just wanting to thank you and just so proud and humbled that you guys are joining us, that you decided to get a little uncomfortable this Saturday morning and have a really good talk. I want you to understand that this is a safe place, that this is a place where you can feel safe and comfortable. This is a place where you can ask tough questions, especially when we go into the Q&A later on today. Sorry, I put this in speaker view and it's not quite working. But I wanted you guys to know that this is a safe place. I wanted you guys to know that this is a place where you can feel loved and accepted, and we're going to talk about really tough things. So I encourage you, as the facilitator of this call, please be respectful of anything that you do ask, especially in the chat. If you start to get uncomfortable or angry or hurt, I ask that you just kind of challenge yourself to push through, stay on until the end of the call. And if there's a reason why you feel like you have to hop off, I empower you to please hop off and then message me privately or one of the speakers privately, because I just want to keep this a very safe area. I also want you guys to know that I'll kind of be, when it's to the Q&A, I'll be doing like the raise hands, this, that, and kind of just directing the questions where they need to go, just so that everybody feels safe. And I wanted to preface that first and foremost, because I want you all to feel like this is a safe, uncomfortable area for you to be at. So, talked about the ground rules, welcomed you guys. First, I want to just go ahead and introduce my amazing counterparts that are speaking. And because she is sitting next to me, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Lee Aziz. So Lee is a 7-year community youth mentor, a high school special education teacher with a master's degree in education, retired 11-year professional basketball player, born in New York and currently living in Arizona. So this is Lee, welcome. And then I'm going to go ahead and introduce one of my dear, amazing friends, Tori Davis. She is a 1-star diamond. She is a social worker pursuing her master's degree. She grew up in a small town in Iowa, and she's currently living in Arizona. Next, I'm going to introduce Dr. Alex Watson. She is a 2-star qualifying coach, a doctor of pharmacy, full-time clinical pharmacist, part-time coach, born in New York City, and currently living in Arizona. Next, I'm going to introduce Dr. Virginia Scroggins, a 10-star coach, a doctor of pharmacy, full-time coach, originally born in Saskatchewan, Canada, now living in Arizona. And then my dear friend Daniela, she is an entrepreneur, teen beach body coach, mother from Toronto, Canada, currently living there as well. So I just wanted to go ahead and introduce them briefly, and then I am going to kind of let them introduce themselves. But I wanted to start this call with something powerful. I was not going to share this. This was something that was literally a spur of the moment. My dear friend from Canada, Britt Hilko, sent me an amazing thing and tagged me in her stories, and I thought it was very fitting. So I wanted to share it with all of you. So I'm going to take a deep breath because I'm nervous. I want all of you to take a deep breath. And I want you to hear my words. Express yourself. Don't walk around with the burden of unsaid things, unlived talents, and untold stories. Free yourself and live out loud. You will never regret standing up for yourself or standing up for someone else. We always have the ability to use our light and our words to protect ourselves and our neighbors from harm. When we allow hurtful or negative behaviors to pollute the environment around us, we do a disservice to everyone. No one deserves to be bullied, marginalized, or humiliated by others. Standing up for ourselves and others is something we can always be proud of. Do not swallow for darkness to spread. Because of your silence, Shine the light with your voice and actions instead. And I got chills, and I'm so grateful that Britt sent me that. And I think that it is only fitting for right now. We need you to stand. We need you to learn. We need you to unlearn. We need you to act. We need you to speak. And I need you right now in this safe place to feel empowered enough to move forward. So on that note, I am going to go ahead and hand it over to my speakers. The very first thing that I want to do is have them introduce a little bit about themselves, a little bit of their background, but also I want them to answer one question. When was a time that you either experienced racism or saw racism, and share that experience with us all? So Dr. Watson, do you mind going first?
Nope, I don't mind. All right, so a little bit about me. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex. So where do I start? So first of all, like Maria said, I was born in New York. I moved around a lot. My dad wasn't military. He worked for General Motors. We lived in New York. We then moved to Michigan. We then moved to Kentucky. We then moved to a different part of Michigan. We then moved to Virginia. And that's actually where I went to college. And then I now live in Arizona. So I have a lot of experience, pretty much every single grade every grade school that I've been to. Elementary, I was at a different school in a different state. Middle school, same thing. High school, same thing. College, same thing. So I literally have been around the block. I've been in multiple different environments. I can't even imagine you people who have lived in the exact same city your whole entire life. Like, that's like insane to me. But what is cool is I actually still have friendships from every single school and state that I've lived in. So love that about my story. Growing up, my parents are both first generation college students. So my parents were able to be exposed to a lot in our industry. They both worked in corporate America, and therefore they moved differently. So when I grew up, I always lived in the suburbs, and the suburbs have always been predominantly white. So that's what my schools have looked like my entire life. I have grown up being the only Black girl in my classes. I've grown up being the only Black girl in my honors classes. And I've been one of the very few Black girls in every single sports team that I have grown up at. So that was part of my decision. When I did go to college, I got into a lot of schools. I got full ride scholarships to a lot of schools. My parents knew since they went to college what it took to get into college. So I was very, very well-rounded. I was in everything. Like, everything your parents might have pushed you to do, I did, because that was my only chance of being able to get into college, much less getting a scholarship to college. So I did get several full rides. I did choose a historically Black college and university because my entire life I was surrounded and isolated and not being able to be around that many Black people. So I chose that school to go to get my doctorate degree. Growing up in sports, I started playing sports 4 years old, started playing t-ball. Same thing with basketball, played sports my entire life, very good at sports. No matter what school I went to, I was a starter. It didn't matter where I moved, I was good. When I got to college, when I got to my high school, I'll tell you guys a small story. My first year there, I went to school with Mark Ingram. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of him. Right now, he is a football player. He plays for the Baltimore Ravens. But I went to high school with him. We went to the same high school in Grand Blanc, Michigan. And my freshman year when we moved there, so that's my first time at another school. So high school, get there, hearing stuff my freshman year. This Black guy who's a year above me, they're not playing him. They're putting him in different positions that aren't what he shines at. They're benching him. He's not getting the playing time. His dad is a professional football player. His dad yanks him out of the school, takes him to a school in Flint, which is 30 minutes away. So when you look up Mark Ingram, you're not going to see Grand Blanc High School as the high school he went to, because by his sophomore year, his dad had enough, pulled him out and took him to a school that was predominantly Black. Mark Ingram went on to get a full ride scholarship to University of Alabama and won the Heisman Trophy at University of Alabama and is now in the NFL. Guarantee you 100% that would not have happened if he had stayed at my high school. So for me, in my high school career, my sports career, I didn't play sports my senior year. By my senior year, I had lost the love of, I'm sorry. I closed the chapter of that part of my life because it was so hurtful. By my senior year, I didn't play any sports. I didn't play basketball. I didn't play softball. It was very clear racism. You know when you're good. You guys know when you played high school sports who the good players on the team was. There's no question. So when you're put in the position where you're sitting on the bench and you watch your coach put you in, immediately you're scoring like 10, 12, 14 points within less than a quarter and then pulling you out, sitting the bench for the rest of the game. Like, there's a problem, guys. There's a problem when we're behind and, oh, put Alex in. Oh, we're back up, take Alex back out. That's the type of thing that I was experiencing. So by my senior year, I was done. I said, I'm not trying out for basketball this year. I don't care that I've been varsity since my freshman freaking year of high school. I'm not playing this year. Softball, junior year is the year that you prep for ACT, SATs. So I started Kaplan courses to prep for my ACT. Okay, so that took me having to go to these classes to learn and get better test scores. So I was late. I told my coach, I have this class that I take for my ACTs and it's going to cause me to be late to one of the practices. So I let him know. I'm the only Black girl on the entire softball team. I let him know. I go to my softball practice late and they tell me, actually, they didn't even tell me. The next day was a game. They sat me on the bench. I didn't play that game. The next game, they sat me on the bench. I didn't play that game. The third game was against our biggest rivals. I knew that they needed me. I'm the best first baseman. The person who they replaced me with was someone who had just started softball in high school. You guys know there's a difference between people who travel softball and travel freaking basketball their entire school years, their entire years, versus someone who decides to start a sport in high school. I took my jersey, I took my stuff, and I went to my coach at that game and I handed him over my stuff and said, I'm quitting. I'm not a quitter. I don't do stuff like that, but I'm not going to sit in a toxic environment knowing that you're discriminating against me, because anybody else who's going to study for ACTs, like, what are you doing? Like, there's really just no excuse for it, you guys. Like, that's just my experience. So by then, even when I went to college, I wasn't interested in playing sports. Like, I was so over sports at that point, and it's sad that it got to that point. But when you're someone who has to fight so much harder just to get the opportunities that you've had, you don't want to sit in that. You know where you're wanted and where you're not, and you choose to move differently. When it comes to, and I'm going to shed light on this, and I hope that someone from corporate is on here, and if not, that someone from corporate gets this. But I know how to adjust. I have been amongst white girls and white boys my entire life. So when it comes to Beachbody, it's not that hard for me to matriculate and be amongst my fellow white coaches and friends. I have nothing against white people. Like, I love you guys. I grew up with you guys. Like, I know that a lot of times it's ignorance and you just don't know because you don't have my experience. But I know how to move with you guys. I know how to adjust in situations. And so therefore, when my friend Virginia, when I hit her up and I'm like, hey, I think I want to join Beachbody, it was because I knew that I would be fine. I didn't necessarily do my research and look at Beachbody, but when I went to my first summit, you can best sure believe that I was uncomfortable. I was very uncomfortable.
Thank you so much, Alex, for for sharing that, for shedding light on such a difficult topic for you personally in your life as you transitioned. And it hurts my heart as an athlete, as a professional athlete, and as an athlete you are, that you gave up a sport due to racism. For those of you listening to this, I ask you to put yourself in her parents' shoes. And as a parent, ask yourself how painful it would be if your child experienced that. So that's what I want you to take away. And then for my coaches, my fellow white Beachbody coaches, we love you, but I want you to understand, and I'll be addressing this later on with my story. I want you to understand, she said it, we can move within Summit, we can move within corporate events, we can move within, but we also feel uncomfortable. And I'll just go ahead and say it. I shared this conversation with my dear friend, Sarah Morrison. She's one of my mentors, and she had a very safe conversation with me. And I said, Sarah, when you walk into a room, you don't count how many brunettes are in the room and then segregate to them. You don't count how many people are from Alpena, Michigan, and then segregate to them. But I want you to know that every Black person walks into the room, eyeballs the room, finds every Black person, and I want you to know if there's 5 Black women in a room at a Beachbody event, at some point in time, all those Black women will be in the back of the room introducing themselves and getting to know each other. And then I explained that to her, and she said, and I asked, what's the barrier for you to walk up and introduce yourself? And she's like, well, I just wouldn't feel comfortable. I would feel like I'm not wanted. And then she said, but if you were back there, of course, I know that you're safe. I want you to think about how that makes everybody feel. Why do you feel uncomfortable walking up to a group of 5 Black women? Because you feel uncomfortable, because you feel unsafe. But we are expected to walk into a room of 450,000 white coaches and feel like we fit. So moving on, sorry, I wanted to share that. Alex, thank you so much for sharing that. I want you to take that takeaway that I expressed. Moving on to Virginia Scroggins. Dr. Scroggins, could you please unmute yourself and share your story and one area of racism you've either experienced or yourself or witnessed?
Hey guys, so that was really hard because Alex is one of my really good friends, and it's hard hearing these stories every single time. So I am from small town Saskatchewan, literally the first town I lived in. There's maybe 1,000 people, all white, completely white. Moved a couple times throughout my life, and I feel like even moving gave me a little bit more perspective of being the new kid feeling uncomfortable. Luckily, I was able to travel with my family out of the country to like Cuba and Mexico, go some different places. And every time I went, I loved it. I loved seeing different people, different cultures. And I feel like that experience as a young child led me to the decisions that I made throughout my life. So I'm super thankful that I had that opportunity. So I played sports all my life, and I got a volleyball scholarship to Hampton University, which is the same college that Alex went to. It's a historically Black college. I got opportunities and offers at other places, but I wanted to go the farthest away from home. I wanted to have the most interesting experience ever. And looking back now, I'm 29. I was 18 years old. I have no idea like what was going through my head. And I remember being nervous to go, but it honestly wasn't even because it was a historically Black college. It was just moving outside the country, being away from home. So that's a little of my backstory. And obviously now my husband is Black. So that's just a little tiny snippet of my background. I will dive into different experiences or things that I've witnessed. So this week has been a lot. Obviously, I can never understand, but I've heard from a lot of my friends, my family, different experiences. And then I was trying to look back onto experiences that I had when I was younger, trying to recall, like, when has this been an issue that maybe I overlooked it? And it brought me back to when I was 15 years old. Like I said, where I come from, mostly white people, but we had one mixed kid in our class. And I remember other boys would joke and say the N-word and like laugh. And I remember in that moment feeling uncomfortable, but seeing our mixed friend laugh as well. And looking back now, I wish that I would have said something, because in that moment, I'm looking at him thinking like he's okay, he's laughing too, but really he's not okay. And he just probably wanted somebody to say something to say that that was wrong. And it makes me sad that I didn't say anything then. But fast forward, I think it was 2 years ago, similar situation. A friend, I can't remember if it was a song or if she just said the N-word in, I don't know what happened. She said it and I called her out and I said, that is not okay. You can't say that. And I was with a family member who is mixed, and I'm so glad that I called her out, because, you know, obviously there's been growth and understanding since that first situation. And she apologized to me because obviously she knows Jimmy, and, you know, that's offensive obviously to my husband, but to me too. And then she went on to apologize to our family member. And so that's an example, you guys, of, I was on my stories talking of, you know, you can say that you're not racist, but you need to be the one to step in and intervene. Because I watched a video and I thought it was so powerful from Patrice, I forget her last name. And, you know, she said a situation happened and nobody said anything. Nobody stood up for her. She's in shock. Why would they have to stand up for themselves? Somebody else needs to intervene and stand up for them. So I hope that from me sharing that, if you ever encounter a situation, that you're the one. Even if you don't know what to say, even if you cuss them out, you just have to say something. Say, like, make it known that that is not okay and that they are in the wrong. And hopefully that makes them never say it again or never do something like that again. So that is my experience, and that is had other ones, but I thought that was a good one to share.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate that so much, and I appreciate your heart and your vulnerability in that. And I think she brought in a really good way for me to include. I want you to think about this. I'm going to say it out loud, and I'm going to ask you if you are on the left side or if you are on the right side. Are you someone that you understand that all humans deserve to be treated equally? Are you someone that you do not outwardly demonstrate hate towards Black people or people of color? And are you someone you are not active in your efforts and may be seen as neutral? Or are you on the side where you are actively trying to dismantle racism? Are you trying to learn about your own privilege and your own biases? Are you speaking up when it matters? And do you support anti-racism and the policies that are included? So the first side, the left side, is I am not racist. That's what many people say. But we need more people to be an activist and an ally for anti-racism, which is on the right side. So segueing into Lee.
Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you, Mariah, for organizing this and for all the women speaking today. This is something that, although we're doing this today, I hope that these sort of conversations continue within your organization and your communities, because it's sad to see us get all riled up and do this, and then, in a day or two, it's back to business, and the rest of us are kind of left in the dust. So my name is Lee Aziz. I grew up in upstate New York. I grew up in the areas where racism is loud and proud. People often think, oh, New York? No, it exists. When I was a kid, since I was born, my mother had multiple sclerosis. And so when it got bad around the age of 4, we had to move in with my grandparents. Now, My father is Black. My mother was white, very Irish family. I had to move in with my grandparents. My grandfather had just retired from Carrier. They bought a house out in the country. It was going to be great. And then I turned 5 and it was time to start kindergarten. There's a couple different stories I'm actually going to tell. But my first day of kindergarten, I got on the bus with my little Star Wars lunch pail, and the kids that got on in these rural areas started saying, "Who let this little nigger on the bus? Move that nigger to the back of the bus." And it was this they're just roaring in laughter. And I'm coming from a place where I didn't even know what that meant. And so I'm going through school. This is kindergarten. This continued on and on and on. And when I got into junior high, I remember I was middle school, I was in the 6th grade, and you had to go around through the 8th grade hallway to get to your science classes on the other side of the building. Well, or you could cut through the library, and you weren't allowed to cut through the library. But when I would go down the 8th grade hall, they would throw papers at me, they would spit at me, they'd say, "Tell me niggers aren't allowed in this hallway." And so I would try to duck my already super tall self through the library, and the librarian, who was scary, used to yell at me and give me lunch detention. The kids would talk about how they were having sleepovers, and you're not invited because my dad doesn't let niggers in our house. I tried to tell him, "You don't act like a nigger, but we just can't have niggers in our house." And so I started to act out. No one ever asked me. None of the teachers advocated for me. None of the teachers, they would pay attention to my behaviors, my attitude. I had attitude, parent-teacher conferences, all this stuff. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, you guys don't see what these kids are doing to me every day. As I got older, I think I was probably in the 8th grade, the KKK came to our town to march and recruit. And the night before their parade, they sent out hate mail into my mailbox, and it was a Harriet Tubman lookalike contest. And it was like, 3rd prize was a lifetime supply of watermelon. I don't remember what 2nd prize was, but 1st prize was a one-way ticket back to Africa. And I didn't know about this. My neighbors actually brought it to my grandmother's attention. And nobody said anything. Nobody ever said anything. And so eventually I left that school. I had to lie about my address, use a relative's address to go to a different school because I wanted to play basketball and not be scared to go to school. I remember being a little kid and living in a white family where when I would say something, the response was, "Well, if you didn't act so Black, they wouldn't call you that because you're still pretty lightly." And I remember sitting on the porch and trying to rub it off my skin. I remember kids being afraid to touch me because they thought it was going to come off on them. And as you can see, I'm pretty light, but I was just dark enough. This is something that happens, but I think what hurt the most is no one said anything. No one. And I felt weak because I ran to another school. And when I got out of there, I went to college and I left the country trying to get away from this. And what I want now is for other people, when you see this stuff happening, for God's sakes, say something. Because it's scary when it's just you against everyone else. It's scary when you send your children out. It's not about you guys saying you have Black friends. It's not about you guys always just having to really feel it. But as she said, this is anti-racism. You're not going to know what it feels like, but God, like, how can people just stand by and let it happen?
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Hard truths. I see so many of you sharing your comments, your prayers, your thoughts. You're like saying, why? Like, I don't get it. It's every day, day in and day out. Now I'm going to segue to my beautiful friend, Daniela.
Hey everyone, my name is Daniela and I'm from Toronto, Ontario. I am an entrepreneur, teen beachbody coach, and a mother. Just hearing about Lee's story is, I'm so emotional right now. That is incredibly hard, and I admire your bravery for sharing that, because racism like that is real. Me personally, I grew up in Toronto, so things are a little different up here. Racism is real, but Canadians do it in a very passive-aggressive and joking way. Everything is about jokes. People will say comments in a joking way. And if you are a person of color and you're in that situation, it's super uncomfortable. Just like one of the examples Virginia gave about the mixed person in Saskatchewan, they just laugh it off. It hurts you to the core because it makes you feel like there's something inherently wrong with you. And it's pretty heartbreaking. But in this country, Canadians like to believe we are, like, generally the greater population is amazing. But we have a problem in this country when it comes to racism, especially towards the First Nations, Métis, and Native American peoples. Yes, there is racism everywhere, but if one's suffering, we all suffer. And the anti-Black racism in this country, like I said, it's very covert. It's in the workplace. I've heard stories of people who work hard but don't get promotions, and you wonder why. They do everything that the next person beside them does, but because of the way they look or from where they're from, they're passed over. So I just think we need to be aware of this stuff, and when you see it, call it out. Again, I am a girl who grew up around a lot of white people. I was always the only Black woman. And for me, it didn't really, I really didn't notice. It wasn't until people started pointing it out to me in subtle, passive-aggressive ways. I've had many incidences in school where this has happened. And the thing about it is so important to just call it out. Don't be silent about it. Because when you're silent about it, you perpetuate it. I've heard stories from my white friends where you would hear people say, I'm not racist, but, and then go on to say something racist. So the important thing here is you got to be honest with yourself. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what am I doing? Is this bringing unity or is this dividing us? And I truly believe, like, the only way we are going to eliminate this is for people to take that journey within, to take that self-love journey. Because anyone who's spewing out hate like that must be in a tremendous amount of pain. And it is so important that you work on yourself to eliminate that pain and to love that pain and to spread that love to other people. And everyone who's on this call right now, I thank you so much, because that is exactly what you're doing. You're here unlearning things that you may have learned as a kid or growing up. You're here wanting to change. And I have mad respect for that. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniela. Truly. Tori, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us your story and your experience that you witnessed.
Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm going to come from a very different standpoint. I'm from a super small town in Iowa of 200 people, only white farmers. Didn't really experience anything outside of white until probably college, and I'm engaged to a Black man. So didn't notice it, very unexperienced with it, very oblivious to it, probably until I would say like a year ago. and we've been in a relationship for 6 years. So I hear a lot of times, especially like my loved ones and friends will say, you know, I'm not racist because I have a Black friend. I'm not racist because I am married to a Black man. But at the end of the day, you can still be racist because you're not willing to stand up in those situations. You're not willing to learn about everything that's going on. You're not willing to see it. And that's where I came from until a year ago. The most eye-opening thing was in my master's degree. It took me going back to school and learning about diversity and all of the things to really open up my eyes. And then this whole situation opened it up to, later on, we're going to talk about Jenna and I's conversations and just hearing some of the things that I brushed under the rug, didn't think anything of it. I have a couple situations. We were talking about one time we were at a bar and he was the only Black man in the room and a fight broke out. He had nothing to do with it. Like, if you guys know him, like, he's not a fighter, the most respectful man in the world. But the bartender instantly walked up to him and asked him to get out, and they were going to call the cops on him. And I, at the moment, ran off to friends and didn't acknowledge anything. My mom came and picked us up to drive us home. But I still, up until 3 days ago, didn't know about that situation. So you can be in a relationship, you can be around other people and still not acknowledge it. But at the same time, I'm willing to learn and willing to grow. And I think a lot of you guys are in that same situation as me, and you're willing to grow and you're willing to learn and you're willing to be open. And that's powerful too. So during this conversation, I just want you guys to like listen and hear, but then do something about it as well.
Yes. Thank you so much, Tori. And then last me, I don't think I even said this. My name's Dr. Mariah White. I am a 5-star qualifying Beachbody coach. I am a currently full-time, due to COVID, full-time Beachbody coach at the moment. I will be going back to treat tiny humans because being a pediatrician is a passion of mine. I was born in Landstuhl, Germany. My dad was in the military and met my mom over there. And then, thank you so much, one more week. And then we moved to Arizona. My experience is very different. I need you to understand that even though in other countries, which she'll talk about later, other countries do experience racism. However, Germany is one of the countries that are standing together in the Black Lives Matter movement. And it's because, if I'm being honest, Germans love Black men and Black people, and it's just the way that it is. So as a German African American, I didn't experience racism the way that some of my friends who were in the US did until I moved to the US. So my dad being in the military, he is a 6'9" Black man who did a really good job protecting me. He kept me on the Air Force Base where I went to school, and that wasn't allowed. And I didn't really see it until we moved off the Air Force Base and he put me in a public school in Little Surprise, Arizona, where I was forced to pick sides. If my hair was curly, I was Black. If my hair was straight, I was white. When I played basketball, I was Black. When I played volleyball, I was white. I had to choose every single day. I had to choose the crowd of people. I had to choose to stand up. And I remember being on the other side, and two sides of it, right? Because I'm biracial. The ridicule and hate that I received from my Black friends because I would say, stop saying the N-word. If you want them to stop saying it, you stop saying it. And I would get hate and be like, that's why you're white. Go hang out with your white friends, Mariah. You're not a part of us. So I'd go home crying. If my hair was straight, I'd go wash it, make sure it was really, really fro-y. And then I'd go back to my Black friends and be like, am I accepted now? Do I fit in now? Am I good enough now? And then volleyball season would roll around and, oh, you guys don't understand. It takes 3 hours to do this. But I would make sure that my hair was straight. And I'd walk into practice and I would show up and I would spend, and I was a really good volleyball player, but I would spend the first month trying to prove that I was white enough and that the division that I was creating didn't exist. So then as I stopped playing basketball in college and I decided to play volleyball. So I was a collegiate volleyball athlete. And I remember feeling the same way Alex did, because I went to practice, and obviously freshmen have to earn their spot. But I remember that we did this thing called Cauldron. And Jen, as a volleyball player, probably knows what I'm talking about. I was an outside hitter, truly I'm a middle, and I had to beat out every single one of my teammates. Well, when I say I beat out every single one of my teammates, I beat out every single one of my teammates. Every single one. And where did I sit every single game? On the bench. Every freaking game, I sat on the bench. Every practice, I beat out every one of my white teammates. And I said, Mariah, it's okay. They're paying for your education. It's okay. Just swallow your pride. But they didn't realize that volleyball was my only safe place. That volleyball was the only place that I felt like I was good enough. But it didn't matter because my skills didn't outbeat my white friends. And then I remember having a conversation with my coach years after, because I transferred to a 4-year university and I started playing. And I went back to my coach and I said, why didn't you let me play even though I was better than them? And she said, it made you better, didn't it? It made you stronger, didn't it? And it did. But that's not the lesson she should have taught me. She should have taught equality and fairness. She should have taught that everybody deserves a right and deserves a seat at the table. So guys, when I sit there, and if it wasn't so far away, I'd pull it off. That diploma that sits on my wall that says Dr. Mariah Karen White, I did that because I was Black. I did that because I wanted to be seen as equal. I did that because I wanted to fight for a seat at the table. And then fast forward, as a board certified pediatric nurse practitioner, I will get called the N-word. I will have patients ask for me to grab one of my white colleagues to come in and validate what I'm saying. And then, and this is the last thing I'm going to share, I was in an office that was completely and utterly toxic, and that is why I decided to leave. But I will never forget when multiple Black patients and families would be like loud in the middle of the hall and be like, finally, we have a Black doctor in here. Go you, way to go. I want to see her. And you know what? I would just sit there and inside I'd be like, yes, thank you for acknowledging me. And then I'd look around at all my older white doctor colleagues and they would just be like, here we go. There they go doing this again. All right. And it was like, no, I earned this. I deserve to be here. I deserve to be respected. And I will take care of you. If you are Black, brown, purple, pink, blue, I will take care of your child. I will save your child. You don't even know how many body bags I've had to put people in, babies. You don't know how many ribs I've had to crack and CPR I've had to give. And it doesn't matter anyone's color. My job, my duty is to save your life. And I put up a post not too long ago. When you see me and I need to save your daughter or son's life, in that moment, do you see color? Do you see that I'm Black? No, you just see somebody with the resources, with the ability to help you. See me like that all the time, not just when it's convenient for you. Okay, thank you so much for letting all of our speakers share our story. I am going to ask 5 rhetorical questions, but not really. I don't want anybody unmuting themselves. You can put it in the chat, me, or you can be brave and raise your hand. But I want you to look around your screen and I want you to see how many hands are raised. I'm going to ask 5 simple questions and it's just a hand raise, and then I'm going to go on to the next question. I ask that you are honest with yourself, honest with the people on this call, and honest and knowing that this is a safe place for you to execute your right to share your feelings and your emotions. So the first question is, have you ever witnessed racism in your life or was a direct recipient of racism? Put your hands down. Thank you. Have you ever experienced being the only person of color, of your color, in a room and felt uncomfortable, uneasy, nervous, or unsettled? Thank you. Have you ever experienced the feeling of starting a new school, moving to a new state, or starting over in a college or university in unfamiliar territory and felt nervous or unsure? Thank you. Have you ever felt like someone was attacking your character and you were not afforded the ability to defend your true self? Thank you. Now, parents, think of your children. Non-parents, think of a child or children close to you, such as a niece, nephew, etc. Have you ever experienced a time when these children have been impacted by something harmful that left you feeling helpless? So, my dear friends, I thank you in sharing that. I don't know about you, but in my screen, every hand was raised. Every hand was raised. I saw a flood of me and hand raising in the chat. I want you to see the unity on all of that. I want you to see the beauty of that and seeing that there was nothing associated to Black or white. There was nothing associated. I was asking open-ended questions about you as a person. Now, I want you to look at it from a different perspective and understand that your Black counterparts that are on this call and in life that you know experience a feeling like that every single day. You might move once. You might feel helpless once, but this is something we experience every single day.
What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of the Your Life Matters podcast. I'm so grateful that you're here. I just ask that you share this episode with somebody. I ask you to just share it and give it to somebody who could potentially need to hear this message. I really am on a mission to help hundreds of thousands of people to believe that their mess is their message and that their story really does matter. And that above all, their life matters. I'm so grateful that you're here. I want you to share this episode. And then on top of that, if you could please leave a rating or a review or both. Let me know what speaks to you. Let me know what you need to hear. Let me know what you've connected with, because that's going to be the best way that I can make sure that I'm giving you guys exactly what you need. I love you guys with all my heart. I'm so grateful for you, and I want you to know the difference and the impact you guys make in my life. I love seeing your messages. I love seeing when you guys private message me or screenshot it and share it on Instagram or Facebook, because it lets me know that this podcast is doing exactly what it was meant to do. And it's to make sure that there's an impact being made and to help remind you and everyone else that your life matters.